Continuing on with the Clone Wars, we hop on over to Season 7, Episode 10, Phantom Apprentice. Hey, click subscribe for more bullshit. First of all, I just want to say this is like the Clone Wars at its best. The previous episode, Episode 9, was one of my favorite episodes of this show, hands down. And Episode 10 just continued that wave. Like I said, this is Clone Wars at its best. It's so damn good. All right. We open up right where the previous episode left off. Ahsoka is standing in front of Darth Maul, and I just have to say that in this entire episode, I love Darth Maul's demeanor, more so than any other episode and any other appearance of Darth Maul in this show. The conversation that follows between them is great, it's menacing. Maul talks about the Republic, the Jedi, no longer being a controlling force in the galaxy. He says the time is almost upon us, and he looks up almost longingly. And obviously the moment he's referring to is Order 66, and this moment further lays the groundwork for what's to come. And I don't know about you, but it makes me feel like, I don't know, when you're on the top of a roller coaster and you can see over the hump and you know what's coming, you know, it will be fun, it's gonna be a blast, but your stomach kind of uncontrollably turns when you begin to come over that mechanized hill, like an instinctual warning sign from your biology. You know what's coming. Your brain knows it's fun and safe, but your body is saying, hey, why are we doing this? So eventually the clones come to help Ahsoka, Maul retreats. We cut to Ahsoka talking to a hologram of Obi-Wan. Ahsoka brings up the fact that Maul talked about Darth Sidious during this interaction. Obi-Wan briefly talks about what he knows about Sidious, saying that Sidious is believed to be the Sith Lord who orchestrated this entire war, and he's been playing both sides of the fight. I think my favorite moment from this conversation is when Ahsoka tells Obi-Wan that Dooku is dead. I love how this story is marching forward parallel, on the same timeline, but parallel to the events of Revenge of the Sith. And so far, it's ridiculously well done. I love the way they're crafting this. It's subtly letting you know here and there that this is the moment this happens in the movie or that happens in the movie. I really like how that aspect is playing out so far. It's kind of like, you know how most Star Wars movies always have like multiple locations going on at the end of the movie? Like in Return of the Jedi, for example. You have the surface of Endor, you have the space battle around the second Death Star, and you have the Emperor's throne room. 3 locations, and this kind of feels like that. Like we are peering into the happenings of another location during the events of Revenge of the Sith. It's a really fun way to kind of tie all these ends together. So Rex walks in and says there's been an attack. I love how the camera cuts to the next location. It's a long shot that turns downward into the tunnels. We see clone troopers laying motionless, scattered across the floor. The music, or maybe you could call it a soundscape even, whatever you want to call it, but the audio paints this really eerie and dreadful picture. We find out that a group of clones were ambushed. Maul cut right through them, as one of them says. Maul took Jesse because he was older and is able to peer into his mind. I guess, you know, maybe Darth Maul is fishing for information on Ahsoka or their plans. I'm sure we'll find out, but most of you guys know that I've never been a fan of character resurrection. I've said this a lot, so I apologize, but Palpatine being back does nothing for me. I don't like it. Boba Fett coming back in Legends, it never did anything for me. It felt cheap, and Darth Maul was no different. It always felt goofy to me, and on a certain level it still does. But that does not mean that I don't like Darth Maul's presence. Does that make sense? Like Palpatine being back and how Palpatine was executed on screen, I'm not a fan of either of those things. On the other hand, Darth Maul being back and how Maul was executed on screen, I am a fan of how he's used. I love seeing Darth Maul in the Clone Wars. And even me saying that now is kind of a surprise, because at the beginning of the show, when I first started watching this thing, I wasn't really looking forward to Darth Maul. I thought it would feel cheap. I was extremely skeptical when I first saw him in the show, but it's a presence that I think is one of the best in the show, if not in Star Wars. And this is no different. He's menacing. He's a calm and focused villain in a sea of chaos. Obviously, Sam Witwer, the voice acting is incredible, especially in this episode, some of the best we've heard, and that helps immensely. But yeah, that's a roundabout way of me saying I've never been a fan of the idea of bringing back characters, but Maul is proof that sometimes it can work. So Ahsoka and crew go to visit Prime Minister Almec in his prison cell. They're asking for information. He says that Maul seemed to like dread some imminent event or something like that. Or he said, I can't remember exactly what he said, but the Prime Minister said that Maul mentioned Kenobi and someone else. But before he can tell them who else he mentioned, he's gunned down by Sax, one of Maul's goons. With his last breath, he tells Ahsoka that Maul had a dream, a vision. He heard a name, and that name was Skywalker. We see the clones ushering citizens of Mandalore. The Republic at this moment is an occupying force. They're herding the citizens like cattle. Bo-Katan asks for the Republic's help, but when she sees this, she's having what I think is second thoughts. Yeah, she wanted to rid the city, the planet, of an occupying force, but now it seems like she thinks she's taken one occupying force and replaced it with another. The people of Mandalore are almost like a real-world parallel of many peoples, many countries in the real world that have been under various occupying forces over the years, over the decades, over the centuries even. This is not the first time that a real-world parallel is present in the Clone Wars. There's often even Vietnam parallels. And you guys know me. Whenever the Clone Wars offers up some kind of real-world parallels, it always adds another layer of enjoyment. All the events that happen next they move so fast that I'm just gonna blow through them and tell you what I thought overall. Maul is sitting waiting in a chamber, in the minister's chamber, and what we get next is one of the best interactions of characters that I think we've seen. Darth Maul and Ahsoka. And it's more than just a lightsaber fight. Yeah, the lightsaber fight was fantastic. The fluidity of it, the kinetic energy of it, it was so well done. But what I've always loved about lightsaber fights, and my favorite lightsaber fights fall into this category or this opinion, are conversations. For example, like at the end of Return of the Jedi, which is my favorite lightsaber fight, it's more conversation than battle, at least in the throne room. At least between the Emperor Vader and Luke. And this had a lot of conversation. And the conversation, I don't know about you guys, but kept me on the edge of my seat. Obviously, I think we all predicted that Ahsoka would not join Maul. But in the back of my brain, I wondered if this was an alliance that would actually come to fruition. And then my emotional brain was like, no, that's not gonna happen. Despite them actually being able to help one another. But dude, Darth Maul's speech, monologue, whatever you want to call it, talking about how justice is merely the construct of the current power base. There is no justice, no law, no order. The time of the Jedi has passed. Every choice you have made has led you to this. And it almost seemed like Ahsoka was going to join. She even says, I will help you, but you have to answer this one question. And Maul kind of lays it out that he was planning on Kenobi and Anakin showing up and then him being able to kill Skywalker because he was being groomed for so many years as Sidious's apprentice. Dude, this entire interaction, this edge of your seat, what's going to happen? It was so insanely well done. I love Darth Maul in this episode. I love Darth Maul in these past few episodes. His presence is so sinister, but at the same time, he seems extremely fearful. He sees what's on the horizon. It's almost like he doesn't know what to do. He wants to put a stop to Sidious by killing Sidious's groomed apprentice. I don't know, man. It's really fun to see. So much so that I did not, as you can tell, I didn't script any of this portion of the video out because I was just sitting there without writing a single word down, just watching it play out. Dude, I loved it. In the moment where like Darth Maul's minions, his Mandalorian warriors, one of them calls for help and Darth Maul basically abandons him, says like, die well, Mandalorian warrior, or something like that. And then Darth Maul is gonna try to escape. It was just kind of like, he never had these people's back. He's only looking out for his own skin, which is pretty apparent to anybody outside of his circle, right? Darth Maul begins to yell, we could have destroyed Sidious. Ahsoka loses her lightsabers. She ultimately saves Maul's life. He's captured, and as he's being captured, he starts screaming, you're all going to burn. We are all going to die. You don't know what you're doing. And they capture Maul. So yeah, like I said, Darth Maul is extremely scared. He sees the vision. He sees what's going to transpire. He sees what's going to happen. And maybe with him being captured, he'll divulge some information to the Jedi. Maybe he will, in a weird roundabout way, he'll maybe try to help the Jedi out of nothing more than fear of Sidious. I don't know, man. But then again, he seems to want to go along with this plan. I have no idea what the hell is going to happen at the end of this arc. This is a fun one, man. This might be the best arc, the best 2 episodes of the Clone Wars that we've seen. What do you guys think? Would you agree with that statement? Dude, it is some of the best Clone Wars that I have ever seen. There's a lot of other arcs that I love, but this turns the dial to 11. I cannot wait for next Friday. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. We are ending this show with a huge bang. HelloGreedo, out.